Hello and welcome to another episode of Mysteries Unlimited. I think we got a good show tonight. Last week's show went really good, even though we had some technical difficulties with Leo. He couldn't join us; his computer crapped out on him. Uh, Me and Stephen had a good conversation and a good discussion about Bigfoot. People seem to like that fairly well, and so we thought we would continue talking about Bigfoot, but not only Bigfoot, but other cryptids as well. And tonight, Leo's going to be actually back with us, so that should give us some more insight because Leo's had a lot of experience. Him and I together have had over 50 years combined experience researching Bigfoot. So before we go any farther, let me go ahead and bring Leo in and make sure we got some audio and everything's working all right. And there he is. There's Leo.
Well, look at that.
Let me turn you up. I can turn you up on my end. Let me turn you up a little bit for me. How are you this afternoon, Leo?
I can't complain too much.
Man, if you can't complain, you got it going on, buddy.
No, I didn't say I couldn't complain. Everybody can complain. It doesn't do any damn good, but I can't complain too much.
Well, they always told me it's the squeaky hinge that gets the oil, so maybe we need to squeak more, man.
Yeah, I've never seen that work.
Not very often, that's for sure. All right. So everything looks good on your end. I mean, the video quality is good. Sounds seems pretty good.
If it looks like I'm not looking into the camera, it's because I'm not. I'm using the tablet,
That's
and so I'm actually watching you on my TV.
Are there a little bit of lag?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. Okay. Well, before we go any farther, actually to the show, normally we like to start off by talking about some recent news, and I don't really know any recent news. The only two things I know is that football season started, which I'm happy for that, and the Queen died, and that's about all I know.
Yeah, I got nothing, man. I got nothing.
That's me. I'm not. Well, as you know, I showed you a little bit of my itinerary today, and I got all of it done except for one thing, and that's because I was in the mountains and Tony had to go somewhere this afternoon, so I couldn't meet up with him. So we're going to try to meet up tomorrow and exchange those video files we need to exchange.
A little bit of your itinerary. I'm worried whether we're going to be doing the show tonight or tomorrow night. He says I got a few things to do. He gives me a list of like 16 things, and I'm like, man, let's do it tomorrow then. That's going to kill you. He's like, no, this is a light day. All right.
I got it all done. I've done everything I wanted to. I actually went to the Bigfoot gifting area today and checked it out. And we'll talk about that a little bit if you want to here in a little bit. Something kind of happened there I can tell you about. And then I went ginsening for, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 hours till my knee and my toe got hurting so bad that I just couldn't take it anymore. So I come back home. Of course, I've still got gout in my foot and my knee where I'm given to the gout. My knee wants to kind of get wonky on me. So going up the side of a cliff side of a mountain, it makes it kind of get to hurting after a couple hours.
Well, when you're going up the side of a mountain, you need that toe. So
yeah, it throws my balance off. There was a couple of times I pitched.
I have it, but it's not something that I have. When it flares up, it sucks. But other than that, it's not very often that it actually flares up.
Let me. I'm talking in the chat just for a second. What? Everything's confusing. Okay, now, all right. Are we ready to start the show? Or you want me to start out with the going to the Bigfoot gifting area today?
Yeah, go nuts.
Okay, I went to the Bigfoot gifting area today. I went last Wednesday and left out some goodies. And I think the time before that, which was on a Thursday, I know this because normally I go on a Thursday. Leo and I had talked about an experiment to try, and one of them was to tie something up in a tree and see if anything happened to it. Well, I took a sucker and tied into the tree off of, with a piece of ribbon hanging down. I don't know, maybe a foot and a half. The first week, the sucker was still there. Nothing didn't bother the sucker. Of course, it got all the other food items. Something did. And then this time I went in and the sucker was gone. The one that was tied up. I don't know if maybe the wind or rain or something made it fall or whatever. Who knows? So today I put a new sucker tied to a string off of the tree, but I tied it a little bit more secure. That way it wouldn't come loose. Hopefully it won't come loose. But something had messed around and took all the food. I've been leaving these little canisters, the little Pringle cans, the little half Pringle cans, and I've been filling them up with various items. Most of the time it's potato chips or something like that. And sometimes the whole canister's gone. Sometimes I can see where something has bit into the canister and ate the stuff. But today, something had taken the canister. I couldn't find the lid to it, the little plastic lid. There was no bite marks or anything like that on the canister, and it was just laying on the ground. And of course, everything was gone. But the interesting thing is that the sucker was gone off the little string I had it tied to. Can't say for sure what happened to it, but we're continuing the experiment.
Was the knot undone?
It was loose. It wasn't all
So
the
it
way
had been,
undone, but it was loose
it had
enough.
been loosened, and there's no reason, no other reason why it would go loose like that.
Well, I kind of agree with you. So I'm trying it again. I tied a little better knot in it to see what happens.
Yeah. Well, see, the whole thing, what I was thinking with the whole thing was, get in with the knot, doing the knots, because if you're having knots undone, kind of limits what's doing it. So.
Well, yeah, usually take something with hands or fingers or whatever. I've been, I've got marvels and little like gems, little clear crystal gems, and I've made like a square out of some sticks, and I put one in the middle of the square. And normally, if it's just a squirrel or a bear or something like that, everything's just tore all to pieces. There's no rhyme or rhythm to it. Well, this time nothing wasn't really moved very much. Just a few of the marbles had been moved, and the little square I had the little crystal thing in, it barely had been moved, just a little bit. So I don't know. It seemed like it was something a little different this time. And I did notice that there was a lot of timber that was broken, and we've not had any storms that I can recall. Just trees fell over. Even in my path, there were some branches and stuff, and I don't understand why they were there because we've not had any storms. We had a little bit of rain, but nothing heavy.
And that's an important thing too. Is we've both been at this a long time, so we pay attention to the weather in case we do go in and find something like that. We know, because a lot of people will say, well, the wind did that. Well, there's been no wind from Wednesday till Saturday. I go back in on a Saturday after being in there on a Wednesday, and it's been completely fine weather, dead air, And so that's the important thing, is that that there's been no weather there to do that.
Well, even the little streams and stuff. That one creek I have to cross. It's low enough now I can walk across without getting my feet wet, but because we've not had really much rain, we could actually use a little bit of rain. So there's just no reason why all the limbs will be broken. And some of them were kind of stacked funny, if that I know you might understand that better, best. There was kind of like it was a big log. About like that, not big enough that that it'd take a machinery to tear it loose or something, but there's only about 3 foot of it. And it was laid up on top of another log, kind of. I don't know, just kind of some weird stuff. And I've not really had much activity in there in the last month. But I don't know, it seemed like there was some weird stuff going on this time.
So they normally mess with the marbles and the jewels. They've done that several times.
Oh yeah, and toys. The toy was moved pretty. I got a little old toy like you get at in a Happy Meal or something from McDonald's. Actually, my wife got it. Sometimes she eats that when she's at work, and it's a little. I think it's a little Donkey Kong car that's got Donkey Kong sitting on a little race car. And I put the stickers and all that stuff on it to make it kind of cool. So I had it sitting in the Pacific area, and it was moved probably a good foot and a half, not turned over or anything like that. It was almost as if something played with it. To be honest, I know that sounds crazy, but it's almost as
No,
if
no,
something
it don't sound
played
crazy.
with it. And something else interesting too, and people may not know this. I put a rubber snake. Leo knows it. I put a rubber snake there in the gifting area, in the hopes that squirrels and small rodents would see the snake and they'd stay away. Well, something that kind of smashed the head of the rubber snake down in the moss, and I thought that was kind of neat too. And that I don't think that would have been something that maybe that was a natural occurrence.
I think something might have got startled.
Pushed its head down in there. But that's my gifting thing. I didn't stay in there a whole lot today because I wanted to go ginsening for a little while. Uh, I didn't see no tracks or anything like that. I seen one possible track, but I didn't even photograph it or anything because I wasn't for sure.
Well, it's been different this year, doing things this year without gifting. This is my first year in, man, 12, 13 years, if not more,
Without gifting?
that I haven't gifted.
Hmm.
Yeah, this year has basically, the idea is going in and going back to get myself going back to the spots that I stopped going to, and checking out that new find there with the TP structure and that, checking out that area.
Now I've not
And
had
then,
any structures in my area in the last little bit.
well, I've seen a few, and that one at the big TP structure thing there. There's been things that have been added and taken away and adjusted and that kind of thing. But yeah, I had that little event of people putting their nose where it doesn't belong and where it's not necessary. But so that stopped me from going there for a bit. So I took your advice and just laid low. So I haven't been saying anything about anything that I'm doing or not doing. Just
Yeah. Sometimes that's the best. Do it later, you know, 2 or 3 weeks down the road, or 4 or a year.
well, I mean, the thing is, if it's that important, I'm probably the least person that would be any threat. There's other people they could be looking into. I mean,
Well, I wonder if they monitor people like me and you.
well, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, they do it to find them though, to find the location of them, of Bigfoot. What I'm talking about, because I believe there is.
I think it could go either way.
Do what?
It could go either way. They could monitor to find out where we're getting this stuff, or they already know and see that that we're in an area that they know about.
Well, I worry about them following me or tracking me and getting to the location of where these Bigfoot are, because I know where several groups are. Getting them to correspond with you and stuff like that is a different story. But knowing they're there, I know where several groups are. I worry about them following me or locating me and going in and killing them. And believe it or not, I really do believe that there's an aspect of the government that does hunt and kill these things.
Yeah, and I honestly don't think that's the case here, and I don't think it's the case every time. But see, we don't know what kind of situation there is between them and the government. I mean, there could,
True.
for all we know, there could be some kind of agreement already, because we're obviously not giving them the credit. Like as a whole, we're not giving them the credit for being as smart as what they are, able to do what they do. So.
Well, we're going to
Who
get
knows?
into some of that
That
tonight.
seems far-fetched, but it seems very far-fetched. But who knows? We don't know.
Well, I know of two people that I know that, well, one of them I know real well that scout is more of a scout for, and they go in and kill them. He said he never had seen them kill them, or he don't not for sure what they do, but they show up military style with weapons and stuff. So, uh, but I know another fellow who actually said he actually killed some himself. He was kind of like a subcontractor, I guess, or a hired hand or whatever to take out. His thing was they took out rogue ones, the ones that were maybe an individual that's too close to a house or was more aggressive than others or whatever, and he would take them out. I mean, I don't know. I worry about them following me and locating them because that whole area. There's rumor that they're wanting to put a big, humongous lake in that area. I mean, they'd have to buy out a whole bunch of houses and all that kind of stuff, which, or the government can take your land if you don't want to sell it, anyways, if it's for the benefit of everybody else. So I worry about things like that, but we'll get into some more of that as the show goes on. So tonight we are going to be talking, of course, about Bigfoot, and we are going to be talking about other cryptids. I got a whole bunch of stuff wrote down. I don't know if we'll get to it all. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. If we don't, we'll get to it at some other time. So first, I guess let me uh, give you a basic definition of what cryptids are. Cryptids are mainly plants or animals that are not recognized by the scientific community. A lot of people don't think of plants as being a cryptid, but certain plants are considered a cryptid, which is kind of weird, really. I don't know what plants would be considered that right off. I'm sure there's some rare plants that science does not recognize. Okay, are you ready, Leo?
I think so.
Okay, now there's a few questions tonight that's kind of tough and pointed, uh, uh, and we'll get to those pretty soon here. But we're going to start off with the subject of Bigfoot, of course. And here's my question to you, Leo, and I'll try to add in if I can. Where do you think Bigfoot comes from, and how long have they been around?
Um, the term Bigfoot to me covers a lot of different things. I'm not, how I am with that. So
it's kind of a catch-all now.
What I can tell, the only way I can do it is give you what I know that I'm experiencing with this particular family and up on the mountain. Anything beyond that's going to be a matter of opinion, because they're completely very reliable friends that experience something that's absolutely out of this world, completely different than what I have. But to me, they're created possibly before, maybe at the same time, but definitely related. I don't think anybody that's shooting at Giganto or any type of I questioned at one time maybe there might be some Neanderthal things going on, especially after seeing Carl. But I don't think it had any of that. They're completely different than that. However, you have other people that are absolutely convinced that there were aliens and they were brought here for a reason, and all of these other things. And I don't dismiss all of those things anymore. I'm not too keen. I'm going to have to see something of that myself. But when I learned what I learned from this, it's like what we were talking about the other day. a very reliable source, very much created because they have a belief system that worships a creator. So obviously, even they in their belief that they've been created. So created before us, along with us, I don't know, but I do know that there was a connection to us that was a lot closer at one time, and then kind of parted ways. And now they're where they're at, and we're at, and
So
yet
you think they've
we
been here
call
a
them
very
the
long time?
savages and they're the lucky ones.
So you think they've been here a very long time, possibly as long as humans, correct?
Definitely.
Well, I only got one thing to say about that. I'm playing with the icon. Well, I agree with you. I think they were created, and if I was guessing, I would say I'm like you. I would say they was probably created before man as we know man. Uh, People think that it all started with Adam and Eve, the human race, but there was a lot of people on Earth before Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were just a bloodline to Christ, and a lot of people have a hard time grasping that. That's why Eve is known as the mother of all living, is because she is the bloodline that started with to Christ, which gives you eternal life if you believe the Bible and things like that. So I think they were probably created before us, but I'm like you, or roughly around the same time. But interesting. Okay, all right.
Well, the thing is, I mean, the argument to that too is, um, without having to get really into anything to do with the Bible, other than to say, the Bible says that God created man, but He didn't say anything about that they were first. There's no mention of that.
All right. Well, I seen something interesting today, and some people may not realize this. Before the flood, and I don't mean to get real biblical, turned into a Bible lesson or anything, but before the flood, uh, the Earth was basically protected by two atmospheres, one of which was water, so it cut out all the harmful radiation and stuff. And through the fossil record, we can look back through the fossil record and see that things were much bigger back then before the flood. Take, for instance, the great white shark. The large one, I think, as large as it gets now, is around about 30 some odd feet. Well, the fossil record has some that are 60 some feet. And a lot of people say it's because the atmospheric pressure was different back then than it is now. The oxygen level also was different back then than it is now. So things grew bigger, even plants and everything, grew bigger. And so that's kind of, maybe that's part of what happened to Bigfoot, why it's abnormal sized, because of it comes from the ancient time when things were a little bit different. But not to get too biblical, I don't want to.
Well, no, that generally in this topic, especially, that does nothing but lead to an argument. But I mean, chances are you and I are not going to get into an argument about either the Bible or Bigfoot. So I think we're good.
And
if it sparks an argument outside off the show, well, that's on them, not us.
Well, people can have their own opinions and things about it, but just research it some and look at things. Don't be closed-minded on it, I guess. And sometimes I'm bad to be closed-minded on certain things. Even if I dismiss something right at the first, normally I go back and research it anyways, just to make sure I'm still okay with it. And I don't care to change my mind if I know I'm wrong, or if I got doubts. And sometimes I do have doubts about certain things, not religious wise, Bigfoot wise.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I definitely didn't choose to go into anything that would have been considered woo, and then it happened. Because like I always say, I remember you and I years ago. We weren't particularly making fun of anybody in particular, but just talking back and forth, laughing at certain things, and then a few of those certain things happened. So if I'm proven wrong, I'll change my mind on the spot. But I've got to experience it myself. And so, but I will say that some of the things that I thought were completely far out and just nonsense happened, and when it does, it rattles you.
Well, I need something like that to happen for me. I'm not saying that some aspects of Bigfoot woo is not possible, but some of the stories you hear are just it goes against it goes against everything. It's just I think some people lean on woo to explain things that they can't explain instead of saying, "Well, I really just don't know." And sometimes they just jump to a bigger conclusion than maybe what it really is. But no, they are
Well,
weird
that's the
creatures.
thing. I mean, a person, if they've actually got something going on and they have, they're learning things and stuff like that, then don't jump ahead and act like you know more than what you do.
Right.
I've said in the past on another show when they were asking me questions, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to name names, but I'm not this certain person. I'm not going to come on your show and tell you I know the answer to something if I don't.
Well,
And they're like, well, you got to get back out there and you got to do this. And it's like, man, that ain't how it works at all. But no, say what you know and what you've experienced, and don't let anybody tell you not to. But don't go adding stuff to it. That just
well, that's the problem. We got people who want the attention, so they make up a fantastic story. When really in reality they didn't get out of their backyard or maybe even off their couch, but they made up a fantastic story and people liked it. I guess. Hmm. Okay.
it only takes a stamp of approval from two or
So
three
I
two or
agree.
three of the other ones, and it's off and running.
Okay, I've got. Let's go on to the next question, and I know the answer to this, but I still want to hear your opinion on it. Do you think Bigfoot, as you know it, Bigfoot, are dangerous at all?
Yeah, definitely. Not the family not that particular family. But the reason why I haven't been back in 2 years, and I'm sure there's people that are listening that don't know it. I'm not going to get into the whole story, but something completely out of the norm for the last, uh, since 2012 or 2013 to 2014 in this area. Nothing even remotely bad like this happened. It happened. I stopped going back to the area. Um, but what was the question again?
Do you think they're dangerous?
Oh yeah. So those two that day, whatever they were, because they were not from that family, with no resemblance at all other than hair cover. Whatever those two things were, they were evil, and I don't ever want to run into anything like it again. I've been screamed at from 10 feet away just to be told to back off by another one, and that didn't rattle me or uh, do what this did to me. I've never had anything to do with Sasquatch research that did what that day did to me. So and they were the ones responsible for it. I mean, there's no way that they just showed up and this happened on the same day. So they were responsible for it, and I don't know what the hell they were. They were some kind of Bigfoot, but they weren't of that family.
Well, I'm like you. I think anything that's that size and that strength has the potential to be dangerous. Personalities are different among Bigfoot. I mean, just like in humans, you got some people who's kind of rotten and some people who are okay, easy going. And I'm sure it's the same thing with Bigfoot. You got some that's more aggressive, which could be potentially dangerous, or maybe if you cross a certain line uh, too close to their maybe where their living quarters are or whatever, you may be met with aggression and be in a dangerous situation. And then you go back and think about uh, all the stories of abductions, which sometimes they give it to, say Bigfoot did it when really he didn't. But you got the Native American lore about it, about them taking women and children and things like that. So I think the potential there is, is there for them to be dangerous. And if they uh, decide to be aggressive and wanted to harm somebody, they could. What could you do? Not a lot.
But I think though, now if I'm talking strictly within that family,
Mm,
uh, I think that there would be. I don't think they'd have any trouble doing like a bluff charge if they needed to. But I don't think they would particularly enjoy having to do that.
sure.
But they're gonna protect their family. That's just the way it is.
And then you think
But
about maybe rogue ones or something. I mean, I'm sure they got something like that that's kind of separated from the clan or whatever, and they're kind of maybe a more aggressive or get a more aggressive attitude.
I mean, they would have to though once they're out on their own, and if they've been kind of booted from the tribe, um, then you're going to be more aggressive. If
Sure.
if someone threw us out in the middle of the woods to look after things, we might get a little cranky too. But
Well, it'd be a fight for survival. If it come down to that kind of thing, you have to fight to survive.
yeah, so do I think that they could be aggressive? I'm sure that there are many that are very aggressive. I don't think as many cross the line as what might be portrayed by some people. I don't think they're out there killing people. I don't think they're left, right, and center. It may happen, but they're not. I don't think there's an epidemic of Bigfoot.
I don't either. I think
I
for the
think they're
most part,
more. I
they're
think they're
easy
more
going.
nasty with each other than they would be with us.
Yeah, I don't. I think most of them are pretty easygoing, and they're not going to harm us. I think but you always got a chance of just like people. Most people you meet are not going to try to rip your head off or anything, but occasionally you do. Maybe may run into somebody who's maybe not a nice person.
Oh, a time or two, yeah.
Okay, let's go on to the next question. And this is a question me and Steven talked about a little bit, and I just want to get your take on it. I know my opinion on it, and I don't care to tell it, but some say, if I'm not mistaken, there are like 12 different types of Bigfoot. How do you
Uh,
feel? How do you feel about this? And what do you think about the idea of there's 12 different kinds and they got them all named and all that kind of stuff?
Help me, Rhonda. Help me, Rhonda. That's what I think about that.
Okay.
You know what? I don't care if they say that there are 7 types, 12 types, 874 types. You don't know. And if you're basing a type on a certain look, uh, that is absolutely ridiculous because anybody that has seen more than one will tell you that basing a type on a certain look, that there would be a type for every individual Bigfoot on this planet. So, no, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but you don't have it down to 7 types, 12 types, or any other. Sorry, that's no. You're. I give my opinion on a lot of stuff, and I try to tread lightly. But if that's what you think, you're wrong. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. That's what, there you go.
Well, see, I'm basically the same way you are. I'm not hardly as animate about it as you are. I think we don't know enough to break them down into certain types. Are they different? Maybe different types, things out there in the forest that resemble a Bigfoot or whatever. Yeah, I think there is. Uh, do I think we know enough about them? Say, well, this is a type one. It's got this kind of toenails, and this was a type two, and it's got this kind of a nose. We just don't know that kind of stuff yet. That's why it takes people like me and you to get out there and try to get information if we can. All
Well,
right.
that's the thing is I think people, because of TV and how sensational it gets on TV, um, I don't think they pay enough attention to details of things that, because I mean, the two movies that we have coming out, and no, I'm not just saying it to plug the movies. I'm saying that
Well,
these things are going to go places. These movies are going places that regular research does not go. People don't bother to check these things out. These are going to be things that are mathematical certainties. These are, you know, deep stuff that's going to have a lot of meaning to it. And people aren't doing. I'm not. I shouldn't say everybody. I do actually do know a couple other people that are really doing some really innovative stuff, and I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see people do things different, because I just keep seeing the same thing since 2010 or so. Uh, People are banging their head against a brick wall here. Nobody's getting anything because they're not trying anything different.
well,
But I
Leo,
mean,
you was talking about the two movies. For those who may not know, me and Leo is working on a couple films together, and I can already tell you that the films are going to have stuff that is real that the majority of people have never seen or even heard about before. Uh, Legit stuff that's real, and it's not something that's made up, and it's something that I've not seen it in any documentaries or anything like that. I ain't even seen nothing really wrote about some of that stuff. There's going to be photographs shared and things that people have never saw. So we got a whole lot of work ahead of us, but
well, yeah, but the biggest thing for me was organization. Because man, oh man, have I learned one thing from this, is I can't just have my Bigfoot stuff in a pictures folder, downloads folder, um, just wherever they land, leave them there. But yeah, I've learned that I need to organize the heck out of all my stuff.
well, I know about that organization, and I got to have a backup of the backups. But I deal with a lot of films, and I publish a lot of films for people and distribute a lot of films. So I like to have a backup of the backup of the backup, just in case something happens. Uh, but that's I'm my stuff is still really bad disorganized. Okay, you want to go on to the next big question? And this is an interesting question. I thought about it earlier, and I think I know the answer. I don't know. Maybe I don't. Uh, what color are Bigfoot's eyes? Are there ever any with anything other than brown? Any blue-eyed Bigfoot? Have you ever heard anything about blue-eyed Bigfoot or anything like that?
Heard heard of, yes, but no, I've never. Uh, the only eye color I would say was variations of brown, lighter brown to darker brown to almost black. But um, no, I've heard stories of the blonde. Uh, I don't know if you remember the story where the guy just kept saying it was so beautiful. The hair was so beautiful.
I remember that.
You remember that one?
Yeah, I
Well,
remember that.
anyway,
I remember who it was. I remember it.
I think it was. I think it was the blonde, blue-eyed one there. And yeah, I've heard another one about a one that near an old coal mine down this way actually, and same thing, blonde hair, blue eye.
Well, now I've had some white ones in this area, a few reports, but I would think that almost all things that live in the forest have brown eyes. I can't think of anything that really has really got variations of brown. I can't think of anything that's got a colored eyeball, a colored eye.
Yeah,
People.
variations of brown is the best I could say. That's the only thing I've ever seen.
Well, you think about also too. There's the idea that at some point Bigfoot has abducted women and bred with women, which would give different genes and such, where it could be possible, I guess. But I would say for the most part, about everyone you'll ever meet will be brown eyed. But I don't know. Maybe something. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out someday. And I like this
Well,
question too. Huh?
that's the thing, though. A lot of things that seem woo, and a lot of things that we don't know the answers to. They're not going to seem like woo in 50 years. They're not going to seem like woo in 100
Oh, sure.
if we're still here. But that doesn't mean everything woo can't be explained, because a lot of it can, and I've seen it happen in front of me that it could be explained. So, and it wasn't the woo definition,
Well,
but
just think if somebody came in I don't know, let's say the '60s and showed us
hmm,
wireless internet. We would say it's witchcraft. Burn them at the stake, you know. So I think we
we'd have
learned
ran and got the hammer and smashed it all to hell.
what is this evil device. uh, okay, let's go on to the next question, I guess. Okay, have you ever heard or seen a Bigfoot with 6 fingers or 6 toes?
I've never, no, I've never seen
Well,
anything
I've
like
seen
that.
some with legs.
I have seen a unusual uh, hair pattern, but not a not anything with digits. And I don't even think anybody's ever given me personally. I know there's a few stories out there about that, but I don't think anybody's ever given me a report with any extra digits.
Now I've had reports of less, and I even got a track casting that came from Oregon that's only got 4 toes, which I honestly think probably the fifth one that was there, but it just didn't take. But probably, purposes you can only see 4 toes. I know of other ones with 3. And the reason I asked this question, and this is a little bit going back biblical again, uh, when the fallen angels bred with the earth women and they produced a race of giants, it states that they had 6 fingers and 6 toes. So, people who say, well, Bigfoot is part of the Nephilim, the fallen angels' offspring. Well, it can't be if the Bible is correct and it says they had 6 fingers and 6 toes. So unless it just, I don't know, they chopped them off somewhere along evolutional line. So that kind of throws that out of the way a little bit for me, anyways. But who knows? But I've never had any reports of 6 fingers and 6 toes.
All right, this is your fault because you brought up Nephilim. But there's a nail I want to put in another coffin tonight.
Do it. Do it.
All right. So when people use this Nephilim thing, and a lot of it came from a certain DNA study.
Wait a minute. I gotta give my gasp. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
So the person who does the study says they went in with no previous idea of what the results may be and all of this, and certain things start to come out that there's angel DNA mixed with female human DNA, and then that little story is covered up by, oh no, angel DNA. What I meant by angel DNA was just unknown DNA. It will fast forward to, well, 3 years ago. I talked to this person, and the Nephilim subject came up, and I said, I remember when people were saying that about the lemur thing and about the whole Nephilim thing and everything, and instantly it was, well, it does prove that they're Nephilim because, and I immediately went, nope, that person went into that study with a preconceived notion and tried to prove that preconceived notion. Therefore, that study, regardless of what you may think, there was nothing to compare it to, for one thing. And I'm not saying this to trash the people involved. We've said it before. There were legit people that sent in legit samples. We're sure of it because we know something. But that when you go into a scientific study and you've already got a preconceived notion that I'm going to make sure it proves this, that study is not legitimate. It never was, and it never will be. it'll remain the big waste of time that it was.
Well, I mean, I didn't really mean to get into that subject a whole lot, but I thought it was interesting, and I hadn't never really put the pieces together a whole lot. But if you're going to say they're the fallen angels, offspring of the fallen angels, the Nephilim, and the Nephilim have 6 fingers and 6 toes, but Bigfoot only has 5. So that kind of, to me, that kind of knocks it out of being the offspring of fallen angels. But what do I know? I'm just an old dumb hillbilly.
And you're one of the smartest dumb hillbillies I ever met, and I'm a dumb hillbilly, so I would know. But no, with the Nephilim thing too, though, is if you think about it, would Nephilim would they be favorable to God?
You wouldn't think so.
No. So why would Sasquatch have such a belief system as to be faithful to their creator if they were Nephilim? If they were Nephilim, chances are they'd all be jerks. They'd all be out there, right? They wouldn't be pleasant.
Yeah. So it's just interesting, I guess, subject on that. And anytime you get the Bible involved, you got some people automatically going to tune out. They're not going to, they don't want anything that would validate the Bible in any way. But I don't know. Maybe we don't know. Maybe evolution kicked in and they lost a finger, or like someone stated there in the chat that it does say that they created the fallen angels created all kinds of monsters, beasts and stuff where they bred with all kinds of different things. But
but
think about
the problem is they're not all monsters and they're not all beasts.
That's true.
For the amount of what I think is what we basically agree on a population out there, overall, most encounters are benign. And I know that certain groups right now are trying to really push that, that's because the more horrible ones are covered up. And no, not really. I've heard some horrible ones, a lot of horrible ones. So it's not that the horrible ones are being covered up. I think it's probably the other way around. I think we need to keep them as monsters. This is how we need to have them shown to the public as gorilla-like monsters. So
fair sales. We got 2 more questions in the Bigfoot category, and then we're moving on to Dogman. And these next two questions are they're going to be controversial, I guess, but that's okay. I know your opinion on both of these most likely. I'd say they're kind of mirror mine to some degree. How do you feel about Bigfoot conferences?
How do I feel? I generally don't feel about them. If that's your thing and you enjoy doing it, I think you're going to meet a lot of like-minded people and you're going to have a good time. But on the other hand, I also know the other side of it, that there's a lot of shady stuff going on, that these, this innocent couple that from the middle of nowhere, Arizona, watch a Bigfoot TV show, they find out there's going to be a conference somewhere, they travel halfway across the country to go to this conference, and they go to take a little walk out back to stretch their legs, and they see people doing cocaine off the dash of their car and off the dash of their squatchmobile. So these things happen at conferences, and people can, get mad at me and say they don't, and the majority of people don't get into those kind of things, and they're absolutely right. The majority don't, but this stuff does go on. So there's the good and bad part of that, but to go and watch the same people regurgitate the same things over and over and over again, have no interest in ever having anything to do with that or even attending. But no, I don't think they're all bad, but I certainly do not think they're all good.
Well, since I asked the question, of course, I'll answer it myself. I think they can be a good thing. I think the biggest problem we got right now is there's just way too many of them. I've seen researchers this year alone going to 2 and 3 conferences a week, uh, every weekend. There's it leaves very little opportunity for them to get out in the field and actually do research. So you wonder, so well, what are they talking about? Well, a lot of times they're regurgitating stories from people who actually spend time out in the field, like me or like Leo, and that's fine. But I think that we're getting where we're getting too many conferences, and we're seeing the same people at the conferences over and over and over. Hey, I like a lot of the guys, and some of the conferences can be a really good thing to get people in, but I think we're getting too many of them. There's just too many of them. That's my opinion.
Yep, definitely. But I mean, like I said, I will never attend one, so it's.
Well, I enjoy them. I've been in a few and done some speaking and some where I
Yeah,
did.
but I mean, the crowd that you hang out with isn't going to be hanging out with the same crowd. But people need to be aware that there is actually both crowds and there's shady stuff going on there.
Well, the biggest thing I seen, I guess, on some of the ones I've been around was the sleeping around that people do. I mean, it seemed like I don't know, I guess it's kind of like rock star groupies or something at times, or people, go to the conference to hook up. Uh, I'm not for that kind of stuff. I'm there to meet people who follow my work or want to meet me, or so that's why I'm there. And that's to me that's the part I like is meeting the people who've actually seen some of my stuff and know who I am and things like that. I find that enjoyable. But I think right now we're just getting too many conferences is the biggest thing. Every county's seems like it's got one. Every state's got one. They start in the spring, run all through the summer and the fall. I don't know, man. I just don't. It's just too many of them for me.
Oh, I know that when I first got online, there was nothing like this. I mean, there was probably 5 or under major conferences a year.
Yeah. Ask a question if it's planning on going to the Mothman Festival. Well, I'm going to tell you a story about that. I've been trying to get there for the last 3 or 4 years. Of course, COVID knocked us out the year before last. This year, we actually had our hotel reservations and everything, and we ended up just canceling just about 3 or 4 days ago. So I'm not going to get to go to the Mothman Festival this year. The drive for me is about 5 or 6 hours. So I have a hard time sitting that long and driving because I kind of got a bad back and a bad knee and I'm old. So that's setting.
Bad back and a bad knee and I'm old.
So that's kind of that. I'm still wanting to go to the festival, but I can't. I had it planned this year, and we actually just canceled our hotel reservations. The closest we could get, well, I think it was 26 miles away was the nearest hotel because everything's full. I might actually go visit the museums, not during the festival, some other time when there's not so many people. That way I can stay closer. So, yep, I'm not going to make it this year. All right. I know Leo's not going because you're not going to drive or fly right to the Mothman Festival.
No, I'm going to have to miss that.
Okay. All right. One more Bigfoot question in the Bigfoot category. And this might be a good one. How do you feel about people who hoax evidence?
Different than I did 5 years ago. A lot different.
What do you think the effect is on legitimate research for people who hoax?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you how I felt before 5 years ago. I thought hoaxers were the lowest form of, when you go into the woods and you put into it what a lot of people put into it. And then you have these jackasses come along and pull that kind of thing. And there's a real hoax that's meant to be a hoax and not a prank. there's going to be a financial attachment to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people wouldn't bother doing it. So, but I also think too, though, that sometimes these pranks that some dude plays on his family, it gets filmed and then it ends up online, and this poor guy gets ripped all to hell for being a hoaxer. And I was playing a prank on my cousin and someone filmed me. I didn't do anything wrong. So I think that hoaxing has always done immeasurable amounts of damage, because that's what the news, the so-called legitimate news, that's what they will turn back to when they want to do a Bigfoot story.
Yep.
They'll also show a clip of 2008. I don't know if you ever noticed that, but
Every time.
Generally, if there's a Bigfoot story shown on like a local broadcast, they'll also flash back to the 2008 freezer hoax.
Yep.
So
every time.
Yeah, it does damage that you can't. I mean, it's never going to be stopped. And some of the things that I'm seeing on what can be done with a computer now, as far as CGI,
Sure.
Mark Andrews. Not good. Now, on the other hand, shortly after Rick pulled his Hank hoax, it was my God, people. It's Rick Dyer. What are you doing buying these memberships? If you want to stick around to see where this mess, what's going to happen with this mess, and you're just watching it for the humor and to see what's going to happen, then fine. I was watching it too. But if you're going to hand your money over to Rick friggin' Dyer after all of this time, you deserve it. I'm sorry, but I mean, I don't literally mean anybody deserves to have their money taken away from them. But if you were around and if you knew, and Rick pulled that, and you willingly gave him your money, you're a dumbass. If you were there for anything more than to watch the car wreck, you were a dumbass. So, it definitely devalues what real work. It definitely devalues it. But on the other hand, it happens so much that now anything that isn't a cookie cutter of Patty is automatically fake. Everything is a hoax. If you ask almost any believer what's out there that's real, Patty, Paul Freeman. Other than that, nothing is. So, yeah, and if that's all that's real, I would say, well, they're probably both dead by now. So the whole Bigfoot thing is done.
Yeah, no kidding.
Wrap that up.
Rebecca asked what the Mothman Festival was. It's basically a big giant event celebrating the Mothman legend, and I think it runs for through the whole weekend or something. And people come from all over. They got a museum there and speakers, and they have music and all kinds of stuff. And I will also answer this question, how I feel about hoaxes. I think it stirs things up, and sometimes it brings in new people. I think with Rick Dyer, his last Hank hoax, I think a lot of those people that were giving him money were new people that were brought in.
But not all of them.
Not all of them.
No.
I think a lot of them were new people, and they were. And so really, I guess they got a kind of the bad side of Bigfoot. They may never come back and investigate it any further. But overall, I can't stand hoaxing because it takes the legitimacy away from the real research. But I do understand sometimes it brings in, new people. And if we can get a hold of those new people when they first come in and show them, hey, this is a hoax, but now look at this. This is real. I think we can help them that way. But yeah, overall, I can't. I don't like hoaxing. I put a lot of effort and time, just like you do, in Bigfoot research. My legs and stuff are all beat up now, where I get back in the mountains. So to have some jack wagon, as we like to call them, go out behind their house and film old Uncle Curtis in a Bigfoot suit or something like that. I don't know, man. It's just like to throat punch them.
No, it's sleazeball stuff, and
It is.
but like I said, I think a lot of, maybe not a lot, but I think I've seen videos where I have to look at it and say, was this really an attempt at a hoax? Because
Right.
I think it was probably a prank that somebody played on someone. There was no intent for it to go online and be a hoax other than the person that was getting pranked at the time. And then these poor people get attacked that they did this terrible thing, and we're like, well, we don't know what you're talking about. We just filmed a guy in a Bigfoot suit. We don't know anything about Bigfoot. It was just a prank. So I think some videos get out there with a fake story thrown at it. They were never meant to be taken serious, because some of those are so friggin' bad that there was nobody who was going to take them serious anyway.
Well, some of the Butchie Kid videos happen that way, and they're just comedy, of course. But now sometimes it's legitimate. It's a legitimate footage that somebody picks up, like you're saying, and they turn it into a Bigfoot video, just like the one that was the logging equipment, and it picked up a tree and drove off with it. And from the air, as a drone, it looks like something's carrying a tree through the forest. Well, really, it is. It's a piece of logging equipment. And then you get some of these inexperienced people that don't know much about logging, or they opportunists, I guess. They'll grab it and they'll do a breakdown video, and this is why it's a Bigfoot, and you can see it rip it up and all that kind of stuff. And they do that to get clicks, followings, and views. And that they're just as bad as the people who are hoaxing, really, because they're doing shady stuff as well. Not being honest.
And the other problem too, it causes a hoaxing is basically what I mean. You've got your skeptics that are they're just jerks in every part of their life anyway, and they just hang around to be jerks. But when you've got all this, you've got hoaxing and stuff going on. Anybody comes up with anything that is more than a blurry blob of nothing, the first word out of people's mouth is dude in a suit or hoax instantly. People have become that jaded, and I can't say that I blame them, but
no.
For the most part, though, if you do happen to share something that's reasonably clear, dude in a suit, hoax. So it's a. But as far as hoaxing, it's not a battle that we're ever going to win, because it's getting easier, not harder.
I agree.
Because there for a long time, I mean, between so 2009 to recently, it's not exactly a secret that I get accused of hoaxing. They were either giving me too much credit or not enough credit. Too much credit to be able to pull off such a thing, and not enough for me to know that in this day and age, you're not going to pull off a Bigfoot hoax and get away with it. You're going to get caught. So if they didn't give me enough credit there, and even these people that were friends and thought I was a great guy, up until I get a little bit more than what they got, and then they thought it was some kind of contest and didn't like it too much. Tough. But it's a situation where they like I said, gave me too much credit for being able to do it, which I wouldn't have been able to. And being stupid enough to think that I could. I have never seen one hoax that I didn't know was a hoax. I mean, you with what they were accusing me of, you would have to know nothing of the Bigfoot community at all. You would have to not realize that most of the people in the Bigfoot community that are actually out there are woodsmen and would know the difference. They know when something's fake and when it's not. A lot of the loudmouths that declare everything fake, they don't know. But yeah, it's because of hoaxing that everything else all of a sudden has now become a hoax.
Well, there's groups of people out there. Some of them are pretty good at it. And some of them are just, they don't really do a whole lot of research. It's everything's a hoax, like you said. But there's people out there who will research hard to prove something is a hoax. And that's fine if they, do it legitimately and they're trying to actually dig in and find information that points to it being a hoax. And that's cool. I mean, I think we need those kind of people, but we got some who are kind of lazy, I guess. They just sit back and it's a hoax. It's a hoax. That's, and they don't never tell you why it's a hoax. You know, sometimes stuff is so obvious it's a hoax. They use the same old cheap $90 suit you can get off of eBay over and over and over with the crooked face and all that stuff. But yeah, hoaxing can be bad, and back to
on the other side of that too, though, is what what not the more credible people that look into things. I don't have any issue with them. What I have is someone that's been in this for 9 months. They got themselves some kind of little program on their computer, and all of a sudden they fancy themselves a hoax buster to the point where they have to lie about a person, and they can't come up with any other explanation, so they just keep spitballing until they hope something sticks, and then all of a sudden that becomes the official story of the thing. Whatever they say that finally sticks, that becomes the official story of the whole thing. So hoax busters to me, like not the ones that actually take time, look into things and all that, but these jackwagons that do what they do, and a dozen that I'm talking about, they're as bad as hoaxers themselves, because if they're lying about someone to try to prove their point, they've just become a hoaxer. So that yeah, it's dirty business.
It can be, that's for sure. We've kept our nose pretty clean overall. Okay, we're done with the Bigfoot topic. We are going on to some other cryptids. All right, next we're going to talk about the Dogman. And I got a stupid picture for some reason. I don't know. Okay, Leo, this question is for you. For $500, do you think Dogman is related to Bigfoot?
No.
Can you expand on that answer? That's an 8th grade answer. I'm looking for a high school answer.
Well, not really, because what I know about Dogman and what I care to know about Dogman could fit in a thimble. So I don't need no more. I don't need no more cryptids in my life, man. I don't. I honestly do not want to ever know, or run into anything like that if there is such a thing. I think some things, again, very credible people that have told me things, but I mean, are you actually seeing what you think you're seeing, or are you jumping to a conclusion because what you're seeing looks a little different? But I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know what you've seen. So I don't know if they're real. I don't know if they're not real, and I don't care to.
Well,
I have a handful of Bigfoot, man. I don't. I hope something like that ain't running around. But
are there any sightings up in your area of Dogman?
yeah, I have a report that's going to be in one of the projects that may end up in one of the projects where not even 20 miles from where I'm sitting right now, but he was followed through a kind of a path where him and his friends used to just kind of meet up and hang out. And yeah, I guess he got followed by one, and he got by the light that was available from a street light. uh, that was shining in on right on that path. I guess he got a really good look. And I mean, dude was messed up from it. But for me, I'm going to have to see a Dogman. I'm not going to have to see somebody's pictures or somebody's videos. I'm going to have to see, I'm going to have to run into one of the things, and I don't want to do that. So I don't concern myself with Dogman.
Well, we don't get many reports in this area of Dogman, and I've never seen one, but I know there's quite, it's gained steam over the last several years of Dogman sightings. I don't know if they're real or not. I've not seen anything personally, but I do know some people who, I feel like are honest in telling what they saw. But I don't, it's kind of scary to me. I mean, if you look at those big teeth, uh, Bigfoot's scary enough without having something like that. Well, let's go on to another question about the Dogman. And I know you may have to give your opinion or maybe what you think, make it on the fly. If Dogman is real, do you think they're related to Bigfoot in any way? And where do you think they might have came from?
Uh, I think some Dogman sightings are actually people are seeing a Bigfoot, but they're not seeing the media's portrayal of a Bigfoot. They may have a longer, their face may protrude a little more. They may be thinner Bigfoot. So I think that's about the only crossover there. Is that I think some Dogman sightings are actually young or very old and unhealthy Bigfoot. But where they came from, hell, by the look of it.
yeah, they're kind of scary. Well, also the general consensus is that Dogman is more aggressive. Some people say they're not. I've not been around them that I know of. I've not been around them, but most of the stories and sightings that people tell about, they say that Dogman is much more aggressive than Bigfoot. And if his teeth are actually like that in the photograph, he's got a right to be aggressive, I guess.
But I mean, again, if that's the case, where are all the attacks? Where are all the people that been eaten from the waist down by a Dogman?
Well, my thing is too, if they're real and maybe there is something similar to that, I would say there's less population of them would be my guess, because there's not as many sighting reports as say Bigfoot, and they may even live a more isolated life than Bigfoot does. Bigfoot lives a very isolated life, really. I mean, they try to avoid people for the most part. So I'd say if there is a Dogman, and there may be, probably is, they're low population numbers and they're more isolated than Bigfoot would be. That would kind of be my thing on it.
Oh, I would definitely think if there is such a thing, and I'm sorry, but I can't. When people tell me, flat out, there is, you have to believe me that there is. I believe that you believe that. I believe that you believe you saw what you saw, and maybe you did see what you saw. But if I haven't myself, then I just can't. I'm not going to blindly jump out on the Dogman bandwagon until I see a friggin' Dogman.
I'm glad people are, I'm glad there's people out there telling the stories and stuff like that. Maybe somewhere along the way, more evidence come out, or I'll see one, or somebody I really know will see one, or something like that, and make it drive home a little bit more for me. And maybe it's just something we don't have, and where I'm at, maybe they're out somewhere else or something.
Yeah, but I definitely agree that if there is such a thing, the population I figure would be much lower.
Okay, our next topic is the Mothman. we've already talked a little bit about the Mothman. Uh, so, do you know of any credible sightings of the Mothman in the last, I don't know, let's say 20 years?
Not of an actual what other people would say it was Mothman. I could say that I've been, people have told me things of the general description without even going down the Mothman, them making any suggestion that there's any similarity to Mothman at all. What they described to me was basically your generic, well, what's on the screen right now, your generic idea of Mothman. So I've had people describe something like that to me, yes, but they didn't mention the word Mothman, and neither did I. But going over and listening to it, I've had people, not many, I don't think, 2 or 3 over the last 10 years, but I thought of Mothman, but didn't bring it up. I didn't. When you interview someone, you don't want to lead them. So, they didn't say Mothman, I didn't say Mothman.
Well, if the Mothman is real, and I have no reason to believe it's not real, where do you think it might come from? You think it's something that was here or for somewhere else?
Well, that's a tough one because Mothman is not something I think the name is obviously a little cheesy, but I don't know. I think what happened in the more famous Mothman thing, what brought Mothman around, with the whole incident with the bridge and everything. I don't know, man. Weird things happen. I think they were seeing something, and I think that it had to do with that bridge. Now, what am I basing that on? Not a whole lot of facts, not a whole lot of anything other than, I don't know, something about it that I find believable to a point. I'll say it like this: I'm much more open to this than I am a Dogman type thing, because if you look at a Dogman, that is not built for life in the woods at all. So that's another thing that bothers me with the whole Dogman. But either way, no, Mothman has always been something that, like I said, that I don't necessarily agree with the name, but I get it. But that's something that I consider possible, and I but where it came from, what, I have no idea.
Well, that's me. I have no idea where it came from, and I know some of the original stories that came out back around when the bridge collapsed and all that. Some of the stories back then were really pretty believable. Uh, I can't recall any real recent sightings that I thought were credible. I know there was one. There was some in Chicago a few years ago, but they kind of looked photoshoppy to me. I don't know if they were. I mean, I didn't do any kind of analysis on them. I just looked at them briefly and read the story. I can't even remember the rest of the story really. But maybe at the time, Mothman, when it first all happened, there was something going on there. And I don't know of any credible sightings recently. And then we got a question here. So, do you think that there's a relationship between Mothman and Thunderbirds, which Thunderbirds is one of our topics tonight, if we get to it? And Thunderbirds are mostly in Native American legend and lore. Maybe there is some kind of connection there. Who knows? Maybe Mothman is a spiritual type thing. I know some people attribute seeing a Mothman as being a bad omen, or something bad's going to happen. But really, we don't know a whole lot about it. We know even less about Mothman than we do Bigfoot or Dogman. That's a good question, though. Yeah, foreshadowing
Yeah.
danger. That's, with always
The,
bad omen.
yeah, the Thunderbird thing. That's definitely another one that I've never seen, but I would definitely lean toward as possible. Maybe not probable, but possible. Um, but yeah, I don't know what it is about the whole about Mothman that I think that's a very cheesy description and a cheesy name, but I've always found that at the very least interesting. With because honestly, with a lot of cryptids, I just don't care. I don't.
Okay, now we're going on to the next topic, and I kind of like this one. It's kind of interesting to me. I may zoom it in if I can. I don't know if I can or not. I probably can't. It is the legend of the Goat Man, the Maryland Goat Man. Uh, I don't know. Every state seems like has a Goat Man story, and it varies on appearance. We had a guy we called the Goat Man that was local around here, but he was just a normal guy who always had a team of goats with him, and sometimes he pulled a wagon, like a small wagon and stuff. But the Maryland Goat Man uh, is something else. And these pictures we got a few years ago, and the story with them, and we actually had somebody go down and check it out, and it basically looks like a Bigfoot with a goat's head to me, or I guess they call it a sheep's head. Uh, what do you think about that, Leo? What do you think is it some kind of mutation, a crossbreeding of some sort, or?
Well, we like I said, Bigfoot to me, the term covers many different things, and possibly many different things. I shouldn't say definitely, but possibly. Um, who knows what else is out there that we don't know about, and what they look like. So to try to, I understand if a person puts this in a goat man category to simplify what it is or whatever, but I'm gonna again, in order for I'm gonna have to see a goat's head on a Bigfoot's body before I'm gonna go jumping on the goat man research. I'm not gonna get into that.
Well, we had a local guy that was close to where this sighting happened, and he went out there and checked it out for us and found some tracks and things like that. And if anybody wants to, you can find that story and all the updates uh, on our website, thecryptocrew.com. If you'll just type in Goat Man, you can read all about it. And I don't know, we might have been the ones that actually broke the story and the images. And I think somebody said that the Goat Man has something in his hand, maybe a rock or a dead rabbit or something like that. Seemed like somebody was saying. It's kind of neat little thing. I don't know if it's real or not. Who knows? But evidently, there's a legend uh, that surrounded not just necessarily this photograph. It was already there. There's been numerous sightings of the Goat Man, and one of the topics somebody mentioned, sheep squatch. That was another one of our little topics we're going to have that goes right along with this. But do you think? Well, you was talking about maybe it could be related to Bigfoot. People who put these in types and categories. I wonder if they actually include this in their types and categories. I mean, even though we don't know very much about it, I guess they could type. I guess it'd be 13 and 14 now.
Well, basically, what I've seen with those types and categories with Bigfoot, it's a certain height and apparently a certain expression on their face. That's basically, and their temperament. So,
but now I don't know.
You can be like a type 1 day, but if you stub your toe and it puts you in a bad mood, you can be a type 4.
Yeah, you make a face. You're type
Yeah.
2. I'm leveling up, baby. But yeah, if anybody wants to check it out, go to our website and check out the story.
The tracks. I wanted to ask you about the tracks. So, what kind of tracks were they? Like,
Actually, there's a picture on the website. There it is. It kind of looks like a foot that the guy found. So pretty interesting. I mean, it's he knew the area. If I remember correctly, and I've not read the story in a long time, this was close to a place where they played tennis or basketball or something. There was like an outside courts that's kind of set off by itself, and there's a wooded area all around it. And that's where they seen it at. They was getting out to go play ball or tennis or something. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong on that. It's been a long time, and but still interesting. The photographs are interesting too. Whether they're real or not, their photographs look pretty good.
But it's for anybody to say when people say, "Well, this absolutely does not exist," or "That absolutely does not exist." Man, we don't know what is out there. We honestly don't.
I think there's more things out there that we'll probably never know.
And I'm okay with that. I don't know about you, but I'm good with that.
Well, I don't mind to see them from a distance.
Well,
okay. Our next thing is sheep squatch, which looks a whole lot like that. It's also known as white thing. It is a woolly haired cryptid reported across numerous counties in West Virginia, predominantly within the Southwest. Do you think it could exist? If so, where do you think it came from or what caused it to be? Sheep squatch. It looks about like that, to be honest with you.
first of all, all I remember of sheep squatch was people on the old Bigfoot blogs. They would do their regular comedy routine, like first, second, third. They would do their regular comedy routine in the comment section, and then when people started throwing cryptid jokes around, not that it was funny then, it's not funny now, but some referred to certain female Bigfoot researchers, and no, I won't say because it's very mean and not at all true, but as sheep squatch. So that's all I basically remember was there was like a cryptid joke about some female Bigfoot researchers that was very mean, and they called them sheep squatches. But this has never been anything that I've ever had anything even remotely, described to me personally.
Well, this is a composite somebody made of what it looks like, and I've seen other composites where it actually has some horns and things more so than this. I guess this is an ear here, but it's kind of looks like that. I mean, I don't know if I want to run on that into the woods or not.
But again, how is that an efficient body for living in the woods?
That's true. Yeah, you wouldn't think so, but I don't know, man. A platypus survives.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, they've got it. They're funny looking, but they have a body to do what they need to do. I mean, but both what I find with most depictions of Dogman, and I don't know how accurate they are, but I mean, it's a Dogman and something like this. That does not look like something that would survive in the woods on its own for more than a week.
Well, it probably eats a lot of plant and vegetation, but so maybe it'd be okay.
Well, it might, but the poor thing looks like it would tip over if it leaned forward.
Yeah. I don't know about sheep squatch. I've never seen one, but who knows? I think there's a lot of stuff out there. Here's something kind of interesting. A lot of these things that we've already talked about, Bigfoot, Mothman, Dogman, sheep squatch, goatman, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if goatman, but Sheep squatches. If you've ever played the game Fallout 76, I think it is. Uh, yeah, that's what it. There's a whole lot of those cryptids in the game Fallout 76. It's an online role playing type game, and you can kind of discover these creatures and such. Which I think that's kind of a cool angle for a video game. You know, that they put you a little Easter egg in there that you can find a Bigfoot or whatever.
Hmm.
I know Red Dead Revolver, which is kind of a really cool Western game. Uh, there was a Bigfoot in it that you could find, and it's kind of a neat game because you gotta kill stuff like rabbits and eat, and you gotta give it to people. It's pretty neat little game. But that's where some of those come from. But our next topic is let me get a picture up of it because it's kind of weirdish too. It's got a weird. Where's that? Let me go back. There we go. This is a weird one too. The Jersey Devil. Now that's not only is that a weird story, the creature itself.
Yeah. So are we starting on this one already?
Yes, we are. The Jersey Devil. What do you think? Do you think the Jersey Devil is real? Do you think it's demonic? Do you think there's been any legitimate sightings the last, I don't know, 30 years?
Well, again, when you look at the reports, it varies so much. There's something. I don't necessarily think it looks like that, but I don't know what it looks like. I've never seen one. But I think there's definitely people were definitely or are definitely seeing something. What it is to, I mean, to call it a devil, well, that's a kind of generic term for anything that would be, you know, horrible looking like that. But um, from the bit that I have looked into it, people describe seeing completely different things, but still being considered the Jersey Devil. But they're seeing something that's not doesn't seem to resemble, any other cryptid. So
the best I can recall, there's kind of two storylines to how it came about. One of them was through childbirth or something, a curse on the baby or something like that. It's been a long time since I read it, and like I say, we don't. That's something we don't get sightings of around here, and I don't think we have any researchers in New Jersey, so we don't get to keep up on any possible sightings of the Jersey Devil. But I'm like you. I think people actually was seeing something there. What I don't know, is it still there? I have no idea. But if it's as freaky looking as this drawing and as they describe it, I think yeah, with hooves, claws, and wings, and I don't believe I.
oh yeah, I mean, the descriptions vary, but every time it ain't a pleasant. It's not Tweety Bird.
I don't believe I'd want
It's
to see
never
it.
a pleasant looking thing.
But yeah, that's another interesting cryptid that which I've studied up on it in years past. But if you don't have uh, a few recent sightings, or one or two a year or something like that, you really don't keep up on it. But I can't recall any sightings for any time recent at all. Maybe they have been. I don't know. Maybe somebody will send me some or tell me about them.
Yeah, but see, they normally trickle into the Bigfoot world. It has actually been years since I've seen anything even. Yeah, I don't even think I've even seen it being discussed in the last few years.
Well, if there was only one of them and it was some kind of fluke or whatever, uh, it could possibly be dead. So that was no sightings if it's dead.
But I mean, you get a larger bird that is diseased. and somebody's walking down the road alone at night. They're already edgy, and this bird flies down in the light, and the person sees this diseased bird. Well, there you have a Jersey Devil.
Yeah. Well, we talk about it's kind of funny. You talk about the jackalope, and it's always a big joke and stuff, but there's actually a disease that gets into rabbits that makes them kind of grow horns. And so whether the person who invented the jackalope stuff, stuffed the rabbit with antlers knew about that, or it's just a coincidence or what, but there actually is a disease that causes them to kind of look like they got antlers. So
I always assumed that when it came to the whole jackalope thing, that that they probably took an Indian legend and twisted it all up the way white people tend to do.
Modernized it, buddy, modernized.
Yeah.
Okay, our next big old topic is the Wendigo. It's a creature or evil spirit, depending on who you ask, from the First Nations tribe. There's a lot of weird stories. I had the privilege of listening to a guy at one of the events years ago. Brown was his last name. I can't remember his first name right off. And he had wrote a book or two about the Wendigo, and he had some fascinating stories. I actually did an interview with him. It's on our website. He has a lot of insight, done a lot of research into this. I think it's more of a spiritual, evil spirit type thing, really, in my opinion, from what I know about it.
Well, I've been doing. I told you that I just luckily fell completely backward into a ton of information about cryptids in Northwest Territories, Yukon, and Alaska, and some of their Bushman type of encounters. These documents are so detailed. They give you how many times the Bushman had been seen in this instance and in that instance, and how many times. They have things down to numbers, and it's just an impeccable piece of work. And it's a really big document, and I think I thought about Wendigo when I was going through some of these because they cross over very easy as far as the Indian legends. So, do I think that there's something out there that resembles Wendigo? Yep. I think there's things out there that resemble a lot of things, and I don't think they're necessarily from here. Now, I don't mean space when I say not from here. I don't mean that Wendigo are aliens. I just mean they come from a place that we don't understand yet.
Well, now one of the stories that I heard, and that was from the Brown guy, and he had documentation on it. Was from the 1800s, if I'm not mistaken, and the way it was worded, that this guy had got, I guess, possessed. It was kind of almost like a possession, and that was the spirit of the Wendigo, and it makes them crave human flesh. And if I'm not mistaken, he killed his whole family and ate most of them. They lived in I'm telling it the best I can remember. They lived in a small community. A lot of the people were going out maybe on a hunt or something like that, or doing something, and they come back and they find that he's killed like his wife and his kids, and he's ate them, and most of them attribute it to having the spirit of a Wendigo, and that's the way I've heard it told to me. And I know there's a lot of, it's like a lot of these cryptids. There's a lot of different versions of the story, and getting to the truth is very hard sometimes. Somebody had mentioned that it's supposed to be a Native American medicine man or something like that. It freaked out or called something, and that's very possible that that's tied in there somehow. I know it does come from Native American legend and lore. So I don't know. It's something I'm not familiar with a whole lot as far as sightings or um, knowing of anybody that claims to have seen one or been possessed by one or whatever. But it seems to me like uh, the brown guy I talked to, he was probably the most knowledgeable I'd seen on the subject of Wendigo. We might well try to have him on someday and uh, let him talk about it. He'd actually done a film too. It seemed like, was it about the Wendigo? Maybe, I don't know. It's on our website if anybody wants to look it up or interviewing it about his books and things like that. Most knowledgeable guy I've seen on it. He done a good presentation. I didn't get to watch it all because I had somebody at my table that I needed to talk to. So, but I watched most of his presentation. It was really good. That's where I got some of that information from.
And see, it does, there's 10 different stories about the origin or whatever, but it all basically, they basically come back to the same thing. And I see in lists of different names for Bigfoot, I see Wendigo there all the time, and I'm like, no, that does not.
No, that's not
But
a bit.
no. And what people do, well, it's just a native name for Bigfoot. No, the two have nothing to do with each other. But I'll tell you this, and that's, I'm a lot more open to something spiritual like that than I am some other flesh and blood cryptids, because I think that we have been doing, well, this is going to be the understatement of the friggin' year, but I think we've been doing Native North Americans a big disservice by completely dismissing anything that they say that we can't put our hands on. They had different spiritual beliefs. So who's to say it didn't bring good things around for you, and it didn't bring bad things around? Who's to say those things weren't there to begin with and they found out of it? But people tend to only want to listen to the native stories if it fits in their box, and that's doing them a big it was doing yourself a disservice.
Well,
But I mean,
we know there's a spiritual world that we cannot see, and there's things out there. As being a paranormal investigator, I've done quite a bit of that myself. I know there's things there that can see me that I can't see, and that occasionally you get to see them, or I've been touched by them, or whatever. But there's a spiritual world that we just cannot see. Even if you go back into the Bible, there's a spiritual part of that you can't that we don't normally see with our everyday eyeball. Okay, this is a interesting story too, and it's a little bit different than what people might think. It's in our recently fallen comrade, Nancy Marietta is the one who wrote this and took in the story and stuff and told about it. It's deer people. Uh, it's basically a walking upright deer, and there's a 2-part series on our website if you want to check that out, which is really interesting about a guy that's seen some of these, and it's really interesting. A lot of people confuse it with the deer woman from Native American folklore, but this is actually something different. These are basically up-walking, humanoid-looking deer people. Do you know much about that, Leo? Have you heard about that?
I have through through Nancy, and but again, it's something that I wouldn't put a lot of thought into anyway. To me, if people are seeing that, they're either seeing, believe it or not, there are still feral people in this world, and there are still people that choose to live in the woods. There are still people that choose to wear furs, and things like that. So yeah, I think some of these ones with antlers and things like that could be just something that simple. But no, as far as the actual tales of the deer people, no, Nancy completely covered that one. That was, I didn't go anywhere near that one.
This took place in 2018, so it's not that far back. And according to what Nancy wrote here, what the witness said was they were over around about 6 foot tall, standing upright. The bodies had waist and legs and looked human-like, with very wide shoulders, very wide necks, and the heads too big for the bodies. They were covered in fur. The faces resembled deer faces with black, wide set eyes. All had large ears, only a few had antlers, and the witness doesn't state if they went inside to eat or not. They was on their way to eat when they saw this driving. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know. We've talked about this before. There's a lot of things out there in our forest that more than what we know. We know there's Bigfoot out there and possibly Dogman and things like that, but there's some even more rare things that kind of like this maybe that we just don't know.
Yeah, some of these you wonder though. You think, well, that just sounds ridiculous. Well, yeah, it does. So why would someone choose to put those? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why would someone choose to put those two things together to come up with that body? But yeah, we know that there are things out there that we can't see, we don't understand, they don't get seen very often. But what's legit and what isn't is we're not there yet.
But if anyone wants to read those stories, there's 2-part stories on there. And there's quite a bit of historical data that Nancy included in these articles, and some witness testimony type stuff. So it's kind of interesting. I think some of the things, some of the past events were actually documented, and she gives her credit for it, is Linda Godfrey. I guess she had also investigated this unusual cryptid.
Well, I'll say this about Nancy: when she went, if she decided to dig into something like this, she really dug into it. And I remember that now, that when just before she had posted the article, seeing Linda's name there, I'm like, I know that name, but I had no idea it had anything to do with deer people or anything.
Well,
But
no.
Yeah, when it came to something like this, if it was something that Nancy had no belief in whatsoever, she's not gonna, she didn't dig into that any less than something she was absolutely sure of.
Well, not too long before Nancy passed away, I got her to do I asked her to do an article for us on the history of the Ouija board, and she really dug into that hard for me and wrote a great article on that, and traced the history back and tied it all the way into the more modern times. But yeah, she really dug in. I hate that she passed away on us. I was looking very forward to many years of working with Nancy, because she actually done the online research and dug in and tried to find the answers, and we need more people that will do that.
One of the things that I hate the most, Nancy and I were never out of touch. If she woke up in the morning, she texted me. When she would leave the house to go to her sister's, I knew. When she got home from her sister's, I knew. We were in constant contact, and I know different things that had hurt her, and one of the things that hurt her the most was when people would call her an armchair researcher. Yes, there are idiots out there that don't get off their ass and do nothing but shoot their mouth off and try to tell everybody that actually is doing something how to do it. That's an armchair researcher. I have no use for them either. But there are also people that can't or choose to do historical research. And that's what I used to have to keep reminding Nancy. Is you are a researcher and a historian. You are not an armchair anything.
Right. I agree with you.
She was so valuable to the world and to the Bigfoot community that I don't think she knew how appreciated she was and how much it really was noticed.
Yeah, I wish we would have had more time, for her to be on the team and work and stuff, because I really enjoyed her work, and she was delightful to talk back and forth with. You never had no problem with Nancy.
She was she was amazing. That's for sure.
But I'm glad we can still share her work, and she's like I told someone not too long ago, she's still teaching me things, even though she's no longer with us, through her articles that she wrote years ago. I mean, I'm still learning things.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. What you
it's the same for me when I go to get the other posts and send them over to the Crypto Crew website, and I'll find myself sitting there reading through them just like I used to do. Because what she would do is the same thing I would do, and that was if one of us wrote something, we would want the other one to go in and read it over before it ever went public or anything, and bounce ideas off each other, and I found myself doing that, and I found it weird that I didn't pick up the phone to text her to let her know that I had read it and what I thought of it. And I started to get used to that stuff because, like I said, we were like that all the time.
Yeah, I know she was. You and her were pretty close. Okay, let's go on. We got a little bit of time left. Let's go on to a couple more. We're not going to get through them all tonight. Let's go to little people, not fairies, but little people. Have you had any reports in your area about little people? Basically, they're almost like dwarfs.
No.
Well, see, we had some here. I got a friend who told me a story. When he was a young man, he would ride with his dad, and his dad was a prominent person in the county, in the community, well-to-do people, good people, worked in the county. He was an important man. They would go up in Harlan County, and they would ride by these little bitty houses, let's say slightly larger than a large doghouse. And they would be these little people out there. And they basically looked just like us, just like a normal person, but they were real short, like 3 or 4 foot tall. And they didn't have the unusual arm size and things like that you see with, dwarfs nowadays. What we would think is a dwarf or a midget. I don't like using the term midget, and I know people don't like that term, but these were just little small people, and they gardened and everything. And his dad would wave at them, and they would talk to you. And that's in Harlan County, and I know roughly where it was at, but he was quite a bit older than I am. And his son is a little bit older than me. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And I don't know if I've ever been able to hear anybody else tell about that.
The only thing that I know of that would even compare to that but I mean, wasn't reported from my area. I had met a woman on Facebook that, yeah, after we talked for I don't know, a few months anyway, she had a picture of. She asked me. She didn't call them little people. She called them something, some kind of other name. Anyway, she showed me this picture of a little red-haired girl about this tall, wearing a checkered dress and a white apron. So I'm thinking, okay, this little kid is dressed up like a parent and is walking down the driveway. Now, she swears that this is part of these little people that live on her property. They don't say a lot, but they do speak to her and all that, and I'm like blown away. But my knowledge with Photoshop and everything is not very good, but I do know that to change the size of the picture and really look at the edges around the subject, I could find no fault with it. But yeah, it was just bizarre, and it was crazy to think that, wow, that this might actually be true. But I mean, no, it's not. It's not something I've heard a lot of. But that, I have to say, it was an impressive picture.
Well, see, that's similar to what this guy's telling. I mean, he said like the older ones, were kind of taller, but there were some he said smaller than that. So I don't know. I wonder if there's anybody here in my general area that has any more information. I sure would like to find out. You would think too that would have probably been in the 60s when they were seeing these little people. I wonder if anybody's got a photograph or something from back then. That could be kind of neat too. I'm gonna have to research that a little bit more. I need to talk to that guy. I need to interview him anyways for a film. When I do, I'll see if I can find out some more information about the exact location and maybe what year roughly what years it was, or it was when he saw this, him and his dad.
But it's funny that you mentioned that the arms, like with our little people, shorter arms and shorter legs, and it was the same thing in that picture. That the arms were disproportionate. Everything was proportionate, except this little thing was like this big.
That's just unusual. I mean, that's maybe it was. Well, I guess if they were there, they could possibly still be there somewhere.
But of course, you hear about normally when people think of things like that, it's like they think of fairies and societies living, little tiny people living in the woods under leaves and stuff like that.
Speaking of which, I had a guy that sent me some video, and I've not even had a chance to look at it. That is supposedly of some fairies. I guess it's video, maybe pictures. I'm not even. It's in a zip file. Somebody we've ran a few of their stories before that mostly was around UFOs and aliens and things like that. That he took pictures of in the sky, and one of them was actually down next to the water. It was a white alien-like thing, humanoid. It was a humanoid figure. But this year, something that I've not even had a chance to look at, where I've been busy. But that's on my agenda. But I think it's interesting, the little people. I mean, and like you say, their proportions were normal for their size.
It basically looked like a little tiny red-haired girl.
Do you know what state that was in?
I believe she was in Michigan.
Michigan.
But yeah, a little red-haired girl that was trying to dress as an adult is the best way that I could describe it. So I don't know if that meant that it was actually a full-grown, 1.5 foot tall adult, but she had an apron on and the whole 9 yards.
Now that would be kind of nice to see.
Well, I know her name, so I could get in touch with her and see if I could make that happen.
I mean, yeah, that would be good too. But I mean, seeing the little people out in the forest, that would be kind of neat too.
Oh, that'd be wild, man. See, now you're talking. You start talking about the Dogman and stuff, and no, I got nothing tied with Bigfoot. But if I came across something like that, right on, I'd be all over it.
Say, Dogman, ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for a Dogman.
I've got several more topics here, and I know our time's already up, so we may carry this over into another show. And my other topics that I had for tonight were lizard people, mermaids, the Loveland frogman, which evidently the sightings from, I guess it was the 70s, 76, somewhere along there, has been 72 maybe, has been solved supposedly. And I had the Mongolian death worm, owlman, thunderbirds, El chupacabra, and I'm going to talk about this one anyways, even if we run 15 minutes over, because this one is terrifying to me. It's called Mantis Man. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Mantis Man, like a praying mantis is what it's after, what it looks like. It is roughly a 7 foot tall, bug like creature that has been reported in Hackenstown, New Jersey. It resembles a praying mantis. The most terrifying bug on the earth to me is a praying mantis. I hate those things. They're pure evil. The thoughts of one 7 foot tall with a big old stupid arms. No way, dude. No way. I'd never heard of that one. I was just doing some research for the show today, and I seen praying mantis man. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, sorry, man. I don't think we're going to go 15 minutes over because I have never heard of such a thing. So I got nothing for you.
Well, you know what a praying mantis looks like, right?
Well, yeah.
Well, imagine one 7 foot tall.
I'd put boxing gloves on it.
Man,
at 7 feet tall, I'd wrap it up, put boxing gloves on it, make some cash, man.
No, man, I can't stand those things, dude. I don't want to see. I don't hope I never see nothing like that unless it's dead.
Yeah.
I hate the little bitty ones, man. I hate the little bitty ones. I don't want to see one taller than me.
Yeah, we went from I don't want to ever see something like that to it would be kind of cool to see something like that, and then I think we can both agree that I don't mind bugs and stuff like that, but no 7 feet tall mantis, thank you.
Well, I seen this praying mantis one time. They got them big old stupid like arms, that protrude out. It had a butterfly by the wings, and it was eating its head. Man, I just man. I remember that the whole life.
See, he knew that you didn't care for them, and he was just showing off, so he's showing you how badass he was, what he could do.
I'll never forget that. It's burned in my memory forever, man. I have Alzheimer's or whatever. I'll still remember that praying mantis eating that butterfly.
Yeah, I think I'd remember that too. Wow.
Yeah, somebody was talking about some of these could be alien races. They attribute them to alien races.
Well, that's the other possibility too. People could be seeing aliens, and that's the best way that they can.
Well,
because
if they look like that, I hope they never come here. I don't want to see no 7 foot tall praying mantis from Mars or somewhere, dude.
I don't want to see it from one. I don't want to see one from like New Mexico. I don't want to see one. Period. Mars or not.
If you see one of those, just go ahead and drop the biggest nuke we got. Get it over with. That's funny. But we may talk about some of this stuff on the next show. We may have a guest in or something. I don't know. We got I got some company coming in maybe in a couple of weeks. My wife's got a vacation coming up. We got doctor's appointments, or I got a doctor's appointment in October. She's got a dentist appointment coming up, and we got quite a bit of running to do. But I'm gonna try to squeeze in some more shows. When it gets wintertime, of course, maybe we do even more because I don't really get out a whole lot in the wintertime. Some, but not a whole lot. I don't like the cold.
I figure we'll do a lot better in the winter because we're research wise, we're both in the same situation.
Oh yeah, you get way more snow than we do. I just don't really like the cold. The snow don't bother me too bad because we get a 5-6 inch snow here. A couple of days it's gone and temperature back up in the 60s usually. But when it's cold, I don't like to get out.
Yeah, well, I mean, the last several years here, we don't get. I mean, we're not in the part of Canada where people get, where we get a lot of snow anyway. In Nova Scotia, we get a regular winter, regular summer, regular spring, regular fall. But oh my God, the last 10 years or so, snowfall amounts and it actually staying on the ground, that's rare. But see, in both research areas for me, once it gets wet in there, I can't get in. I can't go any further than the creek. I can't get in there.
Yeah, now certain times I can't cross the creek neither. It's too cold and wet to cross it, or it's up too big. But I got a few other places I can go, but I just don't like getting out when it's real cold. I'd rather stay home and watch TV.
Well, man, we're old. Cold hurts. Cold.
It didn't bother me when I was young, but yeah, now I don't like it at all. That's when I was young, it was okay, but not now.
Oh yeah, I remember walking home from town when I was young, like a teenager walking home in a brutal cold, but we didn't, yeah, it was just fresh air. But now cold hurts. Like you step outside and my ribs hurt, my arms hurt, my legs hurt, my back hurts. Well, why? Because it's cold and I'm old.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Get a big snot sickle going down. That's right. But I guess before we go, we need to encourage everyone to go to our website, thecryptocrew.com. You can also find us on Facebook under the Crypto Crew. You can find Mysteries Unlimited on Facebook page as well. Go like all those things, and on the cryptocrew.com website, you can find all of most of our social media, not all of it, and like our stuff and subscribe to us if you're not a subscriber, and hit the notification bell so when we do upload videos, which sometimes is sporadic, we upload a lot sometimes, and then we may have a week where we don't upload a whole bunch. A lot of that's due to workload, but hit the notification bell and you'll know when we subscribe, when we upload a video. Did I leave out any websites other than what? What did I leave out?
No, that's pretty much it.
Did I get them? Okay.
And I do want to say thank you to everybody, all the new people that have liked the podcast, because I don't know if you've been getting the notifications too. I would assume, but every day we're getting a lot of new likes on the podcast. So
we need it. We want to grow. I feel like we give good information. So we don't have to worry about us fabricating anything, and sometimes we don't know. We just don't know, and sometimes we research better some weeks for the show than we do other times. And again, that goes back to work schedule. And now yesterday I was pretty sick with allergies, but it's probably the day before where I walked through those mile long of weeds almost up to my head with all these blooms and stuff everywhere. That probably set my allergies off, which what made me probably feel bad. But I did find a good a Bigfoot track that day, and there's a video on the YouTube channel if you want to check that out. And we also YouTube invited us to take part in the merchandise, where we can sell merchandise on there now. And most videos will have a link under it and show some coffee cups and shirts and things like that. I really need to take some time and design a few more things. So if you're so inclined, you can purchase a mug or something. Helps us out a little bit. And we also got the supers, which is a kind of a way of sending a small donation to us and thanking us for our efforts and encourage us to keep doing the show. On Facebook, we got invited to do the where you can give stars. And what it really amounts to is we get a penny for every star. So if you give us 100 stars, we've got 100 pennies. And it's just kind of a way to show your support, and a cheap way, to show support and encourage us and thank us for what we do. And anybody who wants to do that, we sure appreciate it. And it's mostly on if we do videos on Facebook. But anybody who supports us and shares our work or donates to us, we appreciate it, because there is an expense in this. And if you try to be honest with it, it's even more difficult to get traction. If you want to make fantastic stories up, totally unbelievable stuff, or fake stuff or hoax stuff, you're going to get a lot of media attention. But if you try to do it honest and just abuse your body and stuff like Leo and I do, and walk through the mountains, even today, me with a sore knee and gout, I got 6 miles in. So, anything you could help us with it, we appreciate it.
We have to compare our injuries. That's funny though. We compare our injuries like every 2 days. I've got a rolled ankle right now. It's not a big deal, but I've got a rolled ankle right now. But every time we go out and do this, we're going out hurt. It's just to what degree?
Yeah. Well, my legs are scratched out pieces with briars and stuff like that. But you remember a couple years ago, I hit that. There was an old burnout snag sticking up, and I hit it. I was on a steep hill, and I hit it. Well, where that cut me, I've got a big knot there. It's been there for the last 2 years where it cut, and I guess it's scar tissue or whatever, but it ain't going away. That's just part of the game. If we could do it like a lot of people, run out in our national parks or something, just barely off the blacktop and holler whoop a few times or hit a tree and, "Oh, did you hear that? Did you hear that?" But we're not those kind of people. We're the kind that puts on a backpack and we'll go through the roughest part that you can find to try to find some kind of evidence, a foot track, a stick formation, or whatever. That's the way I do it, and I'm sure that's the way Leo does it as well.
Well, we don't. If it wasn't for knowing what we know, I can't imagine any other reason why I would put my body through what I do for this. I can't think of any other other than it's because once you know this, you can't drop it, unless you're one of those people that are so affected by it that you don't ever want to discuss it again or anything like that.
I got to know more. That's the reason I go.
Well, that's the thing is, once you know, you can't stop. You can't stop going, and you can't stop trying to find out more and all that, no matter how much it hurts. If I had my right leg cut off, I'd tell Becca to hook me up to a peg, and let's hop in the woods because we got to go.
Well, speaking of Rebecca, we want to thank her for taking care of the chat and for reminding us that, yes, we did forget a website. It's the Zombie Media website. ZombieMediaPublishing.com. No, I missed it. ZombieMediaPublishing.com. That is my business where we publish books and distribute films and some music. And of course, we encourage you to buy Leo's book, my book, and all of our clients' books. And we have a ton of movies on Tubi TV and a whole bunch of other places, Amazon and stuff. Support us any way you can. I mean, you can watch. Last I checked, I think I got personal movies. I got 14 or 15 movies on Tubi TV, which is totally free to watch. It has commercials, but that's how we get a little bit of revenue. You can support us that way if you don't want to donate or help us that way. You can just go watch a movie. That helps us too. Leave a good reviews if you can. If you didn't like it, just let it pass. Maybe the next one will be better.
Leave a review if you liked it, and if you didn't like it, ignore it. There are no places to review
it. That's right. Thank you, Rebecca, for reminding us. We always forget. lots to remember, lots to remember. And we got audiobooks and stuff coming out as well. And there's several new audiobooks that's came out and more it's coming. So it's, I work a lot. Leo can tell you I work a whole lot. A lot of times my day starts at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Usually by 6, I'm already up doing something at the latest. And usually by 3 o'clock, I'll cut off for a couple hours and I'll go back to it in the evening. So I work a lot, but I like it.
My day starts about the same time, but I don't travel into 6 different counties doing 34 different things before lunch. I'll tell you that.
I like staying busy. I'm only on this earth for so long, so I got to try to get some stuff done. I get all my work done, and he's liable to take me on home, and I don't want to go yet. So I try to keep plenty to do. I keep lining stuff up. I was telling somebody the other day, right now, we're working on like 6 or 8 movies right now.
You're about to work on 9 because mine is ready to go.
So I don't know. I don't know when they're all going to come out, but yeah, you're real close on one of them. I know, right?
Yep.
So I mean, I don't know exactly when they're all going to come out. The editing phase can take various amounts of time depending how it falls together. Sometimes things fall together pretty easy and it goes pretty smooth, and you can get the film out pretty fast. And sometimes you have to really take your time and work on stuff to try to make it better. And lots of hours sitting at the computer. And I did order me a new computer, but due to the shortage in supplies of certain parts, the graphics card mostly, it's already been delayed a month. So it's supposed to ship out on the 17th of this month. I hope it does. I don't look for it to, but I hope it does. But everything's in a delay right now as far as parts. It makes it very difficult to do stuff.
Well, I the way I laid things out for the movie, tried to do everything in order, so
that makes it easy.
Yeah, you can edit what you want out and all of that. So, but no, I figured that'd be the easiest way to do it to get it to you in order.
Okay, yeah, it is. It makes it a lot easier. And then if I got a little bit of filler or something I need, or I know I'm going to need probably some narration, I'll probably hold some audition. I got several films that's going to need narrations. I'll probably hold some auditions for narration at some point, because that can be done remotely. You know, if you got a decent recorder at home, you can record an MP3 of my script that I give you and send it to me, and you know that can be done remotely. So, and I've worked on several films that way remotely, where people send me stuff. You know, I've worked one time. I had that one film had about 20 different researchers or so on it, and I worked with them, sending them files back and forth and pieced it together. And it was a little bit difficult because my original host done some of the film and then backed out, then totally disappeared. I've not talked to him in years. I don't know. He suffered bad from depression and things like that. I don't know how that turned out, but it took me for a long time to piece the film together and figure out how I was going to fix it now that the main host left. And so it didn't turn out. I mean, the film's okay. It's got some good stuff in it. It didn't turn out the way I'd originally envisioned because there were some roadblocks and stuff threw at me that were unexpected. But that's how you grow and learn, just going through things like that.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But I guess we are way over time, Leo.
I don't know, man. My eyes are so blurry, I can't see the clock on the thing. So I think we are a little over time.
We're about 20 minutes past our time. So I guess we'll close her out. And we just thank everybody for tuning in tonight, and hope you enjoy the show. Hopefully in the future we can do another one fairly soon. Maybe have on a guest or maybe another person or two just in the panel for discussion, whatever the topic may be. And we appreciate you guys tuning in.
All right, buddy. I will talk to you tomorrow then.
All right, Leo, be good. We'll see you next time, folks.
I can't promise you that.
Rebecca, take care of you.
Yeah, that's true.
Talk to you later, Leo. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,